Welcome. This is a huge treat. I'm in Singapore in Dr. Gerald Tan's office, who is the president of the Aesthetic Dentistry Society of Singapore. Thanks for letting me come into your office
You're most
today.
welcome, Howard.
And you're with your friend who is your guru, because that's his name, Guru. I think that's the most awesome name I've ever heard. Your name is Guru. How do you pronounce your last name?
Othayakumar.
Say it again.
Othayakumar.
Othayakumar.
That's
And
right.
you graduated 2003, so 13 years ago, and you graduated what?
Just 3 years ago.
3 years
2012.
ago, and you graduated from Adelaide,
That's right.
Australia, which being in Singapore is about what, 1,500 dentists,
Yeah, round about that.
and I've already met probably a dozen that graduated from dental school in Australia.
Yeah.
So it seems to be very common to have if you to graduate from Australia. So tell me, Gerald, how did you what's it like? Congratulations on being the president
Thank you.
of the Aesthetic Dentistry Society of Singapore. So what is that like? What's aesthetic dentistry like in Singapore these days?
Aesthetic dentistry is a growing trend. We see a lot of people wanting to get their teeth look more pretty, so they are actively searching the internet for good cosmetic dentists, and I think that there is a growing market for it, and that's why I decided to take part in the society, to volunteer in the society. And then after a few years of volunteering, I got voted in to be the president. So it's been great so far. Yeah.
So what is cosmetic dentistry mostly in Singapore? Is that Invisalign? Is that bleaching? Is that veneers?
Yeah, a bit of all the above, Yeah, it depends on the case. So generally speaking, patients have a rough idea of what they want, but they have no idea of what is possible. What treatment that they possibly could get to achieve that result that they may want. So they come in for a consult and an exam, and then we just recommend according to what we see, and according to what they want. Yeah.
So are you doing? Do you do more ortho? Do you do more veneers?
Both, yeah, we do
Ortho and veneers?
Ortho, veneers, whitening, bondings, changing out old amalgams, those are really common requests. Diastema closures, a whole host of the whole range of different things. Yeah, not dissimilar to the aesthetic demands of an average American patient, for example. American patients just want it really bright and white, but Asian patients, don't really want to overdo the whiteness of their teeth. They still prefer to have a tinge of yellow.
Yeah, I've noticed that since I've been here, I haven't really seen anybody with the B1 or the toilet bowl,
Extra bleach white. Yeah.
kitchen sink, bleach white shade. I don't think I've seen anybody really with that shade.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like most countries are more into natural shades. America seems to be the queen of the toilet bowl.
Yeah. B1s, extra bleach whites. Yeah.
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 So is your orthodontic tend to be more fixed bands and brackets, or does it tend to be more removable clear aligners?
Both. Yeah. Depends on, again, the patient's wishes and needs. We offer both fixed as well as clear aligners. Of course, the top brand here would be Invisalign.
But what do you personally like better to achieve your results?
Fixed braces, yeah.
Yeah, because why?
Because we get better fine control over the tooth movement, and I feel that it's not as finicky as the clear aligners. Sometimes it's not as predictable as the fixed arch wire kind of braces.
And what about patient compliance?
Patient complaints, as long as you manage their expectations right from the get-go, it's not such a huge issue.
With removable.
With
With fixed bands and brackets, the dentist is in control of the compliance. With clear aligners, the patient is in charge.
Yes, of course.
Do you find longer treatment plans, longer treatment times, treatment lengths when the patient's in control of where being able to take the aligners in
Well,
and out.
anecdotally, yes, but when I take a lot of time and effort to sit down with the patient before treatment and to ensure that the patient understands that that a certain amount of discipline is required. If they were so choose to have a clear aligner, if I feel that this patient is not going to be cooperative, or this patient is unable to have that certain level of discipline, I would just say, you know what, you're probably not suitable for this. Yeah, because it's a huge headache, if patients don't comply and then they don't understand and then they complain, why is this taking so long, Yeah, so the treatment planning stage and the informed consent stage is so very important in my office. Yeah.
So I want you to talk more about the orthodontic needs in Southeast Asia, because America is about 6% Asian. It's about 15% African Americans, 15% Hispanic, the other half's European. Asians have a different mix of orthodontic treatments than, say, people from Europe. Would you agree?
I would.
And so what tips could you give Americans where you do more ortho on Asians? Is there any more tricks or any lessons learned? Because you probably have done more Asian orthodontic cases than a 60-year-old orthodontist in America.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, generally, from my experience, Asian patients are not as demanding and not as difficult as some of the Caucasian patients that I've seen. I really don't know why. When an Asian patient has made up their mind that they want ortho done, they usually set their mind to, having the discipline to finish. I just can't explain it. Maybe it's just the culture here.
Well, that would be the psychological part.
It's the psychological
But I mean, the Asian is more bimaxillary protrusive.
Yeah,
you treat
a lot more Bimax protrusion cases, a lot more class 2, div 1 and 2 cases. Not so many class 3. Would you say you see a lot of class 3 maybe once in a while? But more class 2 cases, yeah?
A lot of bimaxillary protrusion here. But I mean, if you compare it to the Australian population, I think I see more class 3s here and a lot of orthodontic surgery with ortho, I think, from just from some of the national institutions here. Yeah.
So there's a lot of orthodontic surgeries done in Singapore
Yeah, for ortho, I would say.
for
Yeah.
class 3s.
Mm.
And are those usually treated successfully?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Most of these cases are treated in most of these cases are treated in the government hospitals, in the big hospitals. We hardly see big orthodontic cases done in private practice. Yeah, they would go to a huge government hospital, and an oral surgeon working there would take over the case together with the orthodontist. Yeah.
So when you're Elite Dental Group and being president of the Aesthetic Academy, do you also do orthodontic? I mean, do you also do like endo or pediatric dentistry? Do you other mix, or do you just try to focus on cosmetics?
I focus on cosmetics, and we have teamwork approach in our office. So our associates like Dr. Guru would handle, for example, the endos. I've made a choice not to do any endos, because I really dislike endos. So I pass all the endo cases to Dr. Guru, and Dr. Guru, maybe he dislikes surgery, so he passes all the surgery down to me. So we have a teamwork kind of approach here.
So you're doing more surgeries?
I do a lot of surgeries.
For
I enjoy,
implant placement?
Yeah, implant placement. Yeah.
What system are you placing?
Megagen. Yeah,
Mhm.
Megagen. We
And why is
Straumann
that?
as well.
Why Megagen? And Straumann, you said Straumann too. Straumann bought a
Megagen.
chunk of Megagen,
That's
right?
right. Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much? Or
I don't know how much, but I know Megagen is partly owned by Straumann.
yeah, and so is that why? So why do you use?
Well, we have
Straumann
two
and
different
Megagen?
systems. We have two different systems, and we offer two different systems to our patients. because we see a whole range of different patients, and some patients are a bit price sensitive, so they would ask if we have a cheaper implant system so that they simply don't have to pay so much. The Straumann system that we offer is the high-end ones for patients who want the best, and then Megagen would be a cheaper alternative for patients who are a bit more price sensitive. I like Straumann and Megagen because I'm comfortable dealing with it. Clinically, I've been for the courses. I know the suppliers. We have a great relationship. The price is right too for my office.
Now, have you ever been to Seoul, Korea to see the Megagen?
I
place?
have, yes.
You have, really? So how far a flight
I've
is that
traveled
from
with
Singapore?
Tommy and Andy.
Really, how far a flight is Seoul from
I
here?
reckon, I forget. I think it's 7 hours, maybe.
Okay, long way.
Yeah.
And how was that?
That was fun. Yeah, it was fun.
Fun times?
So
I'm so excited the rest of my life when someone asks me, who is your guru? I'm going to say, Guru. His
yeah.
name is Guru.
Mm.
So how did you get? So your mom named you after the Guru? I mean, after the
I
term.
think. Well, my parents back in the day were pretty superstitious. I think with Indian people, you can calculate with Indian numerology like how what name you should give and stuff like that.
Seriously?
So, yeah. So they ended up with Guru. Yeah,
I never even knew anybody was named Guru.
It's
Sorry, Ryan. I did not think of that when I named you.
it's not
I
an
don't know.
uncommon name in India. I don't.
It's not an uncommon name in India.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. You'd have there'll be a fair few people called Guru, I think. Yeah.
So what do you guys? How do you divide it up then? So there's two of you working here. So you do the surgeries, you do the cosmetics, you do endodontics.
Yes, as in basically he's got obviously his patient base, and then I've got my patient base as well, and so obviously aesthetic stuff as well. I'll do it.
So you
under
kind
his
of have
guidance.
separate patient bases, or do you guys both work on the same patient? Or?
We do sometimes that, as in for surgical cases, like big surgical cases, I would refer to Dr. Gerald. And then for some of his endo cases, will be mine. But then if it's aesthetic cases, he's got his own aesthetic cases. I've got my own aesthetic cases. We've got separate cases as well. But sometimes we do crossover when
we help each other out.
Yeah, we help each other.
We help each other out. Yeah.
Mm.
So the patient feels good because patients can see that they've got several dentists looking after them, and patients appreciate that we have a joint kind of consultation with myself and Guru in the room together with the patient. If patients feel that they've been being cared for by 2-3 different other dentists. We also have visiting consultants, visiting specialists that come on an ad hoc basis. When we need them, they'll come. So we have a visiting prosthodontist, we have a visiting oral surgeon, we have a visiting anesthetist. So in Singapore, yes, anesthesiologist, anesthetist. So we have we have a license in our office for intravenous sedation. Yeah, so we do offer nitrous, but a lot of times, from my experience, I mean, this is anecdotally, for a big case, nitrous is simply just not enough. Patients would rather be put to sleep. So we work with a very talented anesthetist. So he comes in, he sets up a drip. Patient just off to sleep, and I do my thing. The anesthetist will sit and observe and watch the patient's vital signs as I'm doing the surgery, whatever I need to do. When I'm done, the anesthetist will wake the patient up, and then he leaves. Great, I love this system. Yeah. So that's something that we offer to in our office.
Big word of mouth referral practice builder having.
I would say so. Yeah. Because I have identified that the main issue that people have in Singapore visiting the dentist is dental anxiety. I initially thought it was cost, but when I did a survey, the number one reason why people don't go to see the dentist here, from my experience, is anxiety, fear, irrational fear of the dentist. The second issue that people have is convenience. So people don't go to see the dentist because it's inconvenient for them to see the dentist. Is the dental office near a train station, for example? Is the dental office open in the evenings or at nights? Is the dental office open during the weekends? Because most people work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and they're only free to see the dentist after 6 p.m. You know, most people take a bus or take a train, and it'll be great if the dental office is right next to a train station. Yeah, if the dental office is far off, say, oh, it's just too inconvenient to see a dentist. So we're located at this area where it's really easy for patients to come by train or by bus. And for those patients who drive, we've got really good ample car park space, so they can just park their car and take the lift up. So convenience, dental anxiety, top two, and the third one is price. Too pricey to see the dentist.
What percent of Singaporeans use car versus public transportation, train, bus?
I have no idea, but if I were to make a guess, maybe 10%
10% what?
of Singaporeans drive.
And 90% take public transportation? Yeah, I've noticed that most people don't use a car, correct? 90%.
It's
And
very, very expensive.
explain the car situation. You have to buy a license
You
to
have
buy
to
a
buy
car.
a license to buy a car.
And how much is a license usually?
So it's a certificate of entitlement. That's what they call it. Certificate of entitlement. It's a COE. So that certificate entitles you the privilege to buy a car.
And how much is that?
Oh, it ranges from 50,000 to 100,000 Singapore dollars, just to get that certificate.
And then when you buy a car, you can only keep it for 10 years, and then you gotta.
Not quite. You can keep it for 10 years, and then after 10 years, you've got to buy another certificate to extend that privilege of owning the car for another 10 years.
And so, what is the reason? What was the logic behind Singapore's logic to have 90% of the public?
Our transport
use-
minister thinks that now, because Singapore is such a small country, they want to control the vehicle population. They don't want to create a city like Jakarta, like Bangkok, when you've got too many cars and everyone's stuck in a jam all the time. So they just they thought it would be a brilliant idea to tax the people, so only the rich people can drive.
And Singapore doesn't have natural resources. It doesn't make its own gas or oil, right? So you'd have to import all the gas.
And our natural resources are people.
Right. So do you know many other dentists that are doing IV sedation? Is this is it very common? I mean, out of 1,500 dentists in Singapore, is this very common or?
Well, you're sitting in the Orchard Road belt. Okay, so this is the main central activity hub of all of Singapore. That's like the Rodeo Drive of Singapore. You're sitting in this stretch right now, and all the top dentists are here. Okay, so most of the top dental offices in this belt, in this street, do offer that option of intravenous sedation. The further out you go to the smaller suburbs, you get smaller clinics, and they don't offer that. Yeah.
I heard all the gurus were on this street.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So you said anxiety was a number one, convenience was number two. What are your hours?
We open our office at 8:30 in the morning till about 6:30 at night in the evenings. Saturdays we open from 9 a.m. 8:30 till about 1:30 p.m. We close on Sundays.
How many hours do you work a week?
Oh gosh, I work. Yeah, those hours from.
But how many is that?
I forget. It's 8 hours per day, so that's like 40, maybe 45 hours a week.
Is it 45?
43, 5.5 days.
Figure it out.
That's not right.
45, yeah.
45. I find it very interesting in Southeast Asia that most dentists work 45 to 52 hours a
In
week.
the U.S. it's 32, right?
And then when you go to the United States, I say, well, what is your big problem? And they go, well, I got $350,000 of student loans, and I bought a practice for $600,000 and a house for $600,000, and I'm 25 years old, and I'm $1 million in debt, and I'm stressed on my mind. And I say, well, what are your hours? Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4. It's like, dude, you don't even have a full-time job.
Right. Yeah.
And then when you say to an American, well, maybe one way you could make a lot more money is you could work like an Asian, and instead of working 32 hours a
Yeah,
week,
it's our culture
you could
here in
work
Asia. We work
52
really
hours
hard,
a week.
yeah.
And they immediately say, well, no, I want to work smarter, not harder. I mean, they just, the last thing an American wants to hear is, you know what you ought to do is, why don't you just work 5.5 days a week? I mean, when I opened up my practice, I opened up in 1987, I opened up 7 to 7 Monday through Saturday, and I did it for a decade. But I paid off all my bills. I saved up $1 million. I mean, all this stuff like that. But it's just hard to get. So why do you think every other dentist everybody I meet in Singapore works 45 to 52 hours a week, and in America they work 32? What do you think that is?
I think it's part culture. In Asia, all of us have this culture of being really hardworking. We just simply do not want to lose out. We just want to work hard, like you said, clear our debts. And being men, I suppose. We have to upkeep that image of being, the breadwinner for the family, and for us who are privileged enough to own a practice, like you and me, this is our baby, right? So we get consumed by it. So naturally, we think about our practice day and night. So we want to work in it. We want to build it up. We want to build the goodwill. Yeah, I cannot imagine any practice owner not wanting to work hard to build up the practice.
I want to ask another thing. So, talk about, do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage that there's no insurance in Singapore? Because you practice next to Australia and New Zealand, which is huge, a lot of dental insurance. Everybody knows that the United Kingdom, their NSH pays very, very low, and and America's, I think last I read, in America only 3% of dentists don't take insurance. So do you wish Singapore had dental insurance? Or are you glad?
We
Are
actually do.
you?
We actually do have dental insurance.
But it's not a big part of
It's
your.
not a big part, but we do. We do. Have dental
Talk about dental insurance. What's dental insurance like in your practice in Singapore?
Well, the Singaporean individual Singaporean person is not able to buy individual dental insurance plans. However, if you are a business owner, you can purchase dental insurance plans for your entire company, for all your employees. So those companies who have employees that enjoy dental benefits by way of their bosses buying for them dental insurance plans, they can go to dentists in approved list and get dental treatment done, and paid for by the insurance company.
But is it very common though?
It's getting more and more common.
How many of your patients? What percent of your patients have dental insurance?
30.
So you think 30%?
70% private paying patients, about 30% insurance.
So that's the highest percent that I've met so far. Most of the dentists I've met so far say that it's under 5%. Like
in Singapore?
Yeah. So far of the dentists that I've talked to, they say it's about 5%. But you're.
But my office is quite new. I just created this office less than 2 years ago. So for new practices, it does make sense to work with insurance companies just to build up that patient flow, especially when we're in a mall like this. We're on the 7th floor. We hardly get any walk-ins, not like today's dental. It's a huge building all by itself. The visibility is high. Patients see your practice and they just walk in. We hardly have any walk-ins, so we really depend on tie-ups with insurance companies just to get that flow, that initial flow. Once we've built that goodwill, we start to taper off with the insurance.
So let's talk about. I like to talk about things that are different with your country versus others. Like, talk about how you can advertise your advertising rules in Singapore versus, say, Australia or the United States.
The Singapore government, or more specifically the Ministry of Health here, has set out a set of very, very strict publicity guidelines. And I'll just summarize these guidelines for you. We're not allowed to have before and after photos in any of our marketing material. We're not allowed to have celebrity endorsements in any of our marketing material. We're not allowed to have patient testimonials. Whether it's a good testimonial or a good review, or whether it's a bad review, all reviews are against the law.
So a patient can't leave a Google review?
No, it's against the law here.
So Google does not allow reviews then?
Google allows you patients to write the review, but the responsibility or the onus is on the practice owner or the dentist to ensure that patients don't put reviews up on Google.
So if one of your patients left and said, I really like you,
Mm-hmm.
and put a nice review, then you would try to contact that patient to take it down?
To take it down, absolutely right.
Seriously?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
And
Now, on your private website, can you put before and after pictures?
No,
No?
no.
So in a way, that's just means that you can't rely on external advertising. You have to do internal.
Internal.
So then what do you do to build a practice since you're not allowed to do external direct
Well,
mail, flyers, all that?
We have, patient referral programs. We have a robust system to thank our patients for referring to us. We're currently building on it to try and improve on it. Maybe you can give me some tips. We feel that building the office goodwill by way of word of mouth referrals is the strongest and best way, because our business is built on trust. Like you correctly said in your lecture yesterday, patients who get referred to us by existing happy patients tend to spend 3 times more than those patients that have seen us, got to know us through a magazine or, from a website or a fancy article somewhere in the papers or whatever. Yeah. We get a lot of shoppers, dental shoppers. They see an advertisement and then they call and make an inquiry, but they're not so serious about making an appointment. Yeah. Do you have experience with those kind of patients?
Oh, all day long.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. So we spend I've tried and tested spending a huge amount of money on fancy advertisements and
But I thought you just said you can't really advertise.
we can, but to a very limited degree. So we can have a fancy advertisement with a fancy tagline, but we cannot advertise promotions, like for example discounts. We cannot use laudatory terms, like for example, I cannot say I'm the most gentle dentist in Singapore. I cannot say I'm the most famous celebrity dentist in Singapore. I cannot say I'm the cheapest dentist in Singapore. Yeah, but in the US, you can make such claims, right? Celebrity Hollywood dentist, you can say whatever you want about yourself. But if you dare to make that claim, you better live up to that expectation, right? But in Singapore, because our Ministry of Health wants to create a level playing field, they have all these restrictions, yeah. A level playing field between the smaller boutique offices like mine versus the big chains, But there's only one big chain. There's only one Aspen in Singapore. Yeah. And
There
it's
is an Aspen Dental in Singapore?
No. I mean, I'm just saying.
okay.
An Aspen equivalent.
And what is the name of that one?
Q&M.
Q&M, right.
Yeah, Q&M.
And then in Australia, it'd be 1,300 Smiles and Pacific Dental?
Yeah.
Pacific Dental?
Yeah.
Aspen is what, 150 practices now?
In the United States?
What is it now? Aspen?
Oh, Heartland has 1,500.
Okay.
Heartland has 1,500. I think Pacific Dental Services, Steve Thorne, I think has 500. Comfort Dental, Rick Kirshner.
I met those guys at Mark Cooper's.
Yes.
Of course,
That was
yeah.
in Scottsdale.
Hmm?
My God, you should have came by my house. I was
should've.
10 minutes away from there.
So all those big boys, yeah, they came to attend the summit.
I love Mark Cooper more when I
Yeah.
heard about your story because he won't let anybody in there.
Actually,
unless
Mark
they're
is
group
coming in April, so I will be
Yeah.
hosting him in April.
But the only reason he let you in there is because you weren't an American,
Yeah.
and he probably thought it was not proper to tell someone from Southeast Asia that you can't attend my seminar. So he probably just couldn't say no to you.
Probably.
But if you lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and you didn't have more than one office, he would have told you absolutely no. So he just took you under his wing. That makes me like Mark Cooper even more.
You know him well, don't you?
Sure.
Yeah.
So what about technology? What technology do you use? Any specific technologies in your office that you're
Yeah, well,
fond of?
technology, all our fancy shiny toys are really, really expensive in Singapore. So being
What fancy shiny toys did you buy?
well, I just bought a CBCT and all the new dental chairs and all the software is expensive. The X-ray softwares and all the computer hardware is expensive. There's a huge capital startup cost.
What
to
CBCT did you go with?
a Vatech.
Vatech.
Yeah, that's a Korean-
VATECH out of
VATECH.
South Korea.
Mhm.
So there's a couple CBCTs out of Korea, isn't there? Or is
I
it
think
just
there's,
mostly Vatech?
There's a Samsung one as well.
Is there a Samsung one?
There is a Samsung one. So Samsung is starting to diversify into medical imaging.
So are they selling a unit now?
Mhm, mhm.
So you looked at the Samsung and the Vatech, and you
Mhm.
went with Vatech?
Mhm, mhm.
How you just intuitively you think Samsung would probably beat anybody because they're such
Yeah,
a
but
powerhouse.
you'd be surprised, but Samsung is pretty new to the medical imaging game.
So you like Vatech better?
Yeah, because they've been around for a while now, and this customer service very good.
Yeah.
Anything wrong with my CBCT, I call the
And how
call the
much
guy.
was your CBCT?
100,000 Singapore dollars?
100,000 Singapore.
How much
So
does it cost in the US?
what would that be in US dollars?
80?
It'd be 80,000 US.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be 100,000 Singapore.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that about
CBC.
same?
So let me tell you that did this crush your mind. Some people say that CBCTs are like Samsung smartphones or iPhone smartphones, that you wouldn't want to own your smartphone for 10, 20 years because every 3 or 4 years the technology is so much better. You want the new one. Did
We
that?
have a trade-in program, yeah.
Oh, you have a trade-in program.
Mhm.
Okay, explain that.
Well, I mean, if there's a new model that gets released, we get to trade in this CBCT for a second-hand value, and then we just top up the difference, get a new machine.
So, or is the trading value already calculated, or?
Oh, well, no, it's not really, according to the condition of the machine at that time.
Well, that's a nice solution because that's the number one concern I hear about CBCTs is price.
Mhm.
You know, it's $100,000,
Mhm.
and number two is I don't want to own my iPhone for 20 years.
Well,
you
there's
know.
a second-hand market for CBCTs.
Fantastic.
So sometimes you get a small office down in the suburbs who want to buy a second-hand CBCT. You know, so the suppliers will help to match.
So you bought the CBCT pretty much only for implants or anything else?
Implants, wisdom teeth, yeah, mostly for implants and wisdom teeth. Mostly, primarily, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then the odd cyst. or the
Whenever
odd-
you pull out all 4 wisdom teeth, do you ever tell the patient, "Hey, we pulled out all the 4 wisdom teeth. Do you want us to pull all the dumb ones out too?"
No, we don't do that.
Stupid joke.
Yeah.
So any other technologies? Are you into lasers or CAD cams or?
Yeah, I
anything like
wish I could, Howard, but it's just too cost prohibitive for me right now as a new office. I wish I could have all those bright shiny toys right from the get-go, from the beginning, but that's just too cost prohibitive. So,
But do you think they're necessary?
I don't think so, because patients never ask.
Right.
Patients never ask. They don't really care. They never ask, is your dental chair the latest 2016 model?
Yeah.
Is your handpiece the latest 2016 model?
I would say 80% of all the millionaire dentists that are my friends in the United States don't place implants, don't have CAD cam, don't have a laser, don't have a CBCT,
But they're really
and don't
good
even
with
do
people.
and don't even do molar endo.
Yeah, but they're really good with people.
Yeah, they just do fillings and crowns.
Mm.
I think
But
the
they're-
most money you'll ever make is with a high-speed handpiece.
Mm. So I understand that. So in my office, we really focus on building a culture of connecting with our patients. We're in the business of treating human beings. It just so happens that coincidentally a tooth is attached to you. We treat you as a human being. Fixing your tooth is a given.
By the way, Ryan, I'm going to have to say on this podcast that if these 2 dentists have the 2 best heads of hair in all of dentistry. I don't think I've ever seen this good of hair in dentistry. Have you, Ryan? Can you think of anyone? We've done 350 podcasts, and you have the best hair of all.
Mm.
I want to ask another difference that we hear sometimes. we always hear in America, which hardly does uses hardly any glass ionomer, that there's just so much more glass ionomer used in like Australia, New Zealand. Do either of you use glass ionomer in your practice, or is it mostly resin?
Mostly resin.
I like GIC, but I'm just.
So you like glass ionomer?
Yeah.
But you don't.
I like resin.
Well, talk about glass ionomer, because it's most of your viewers, probably 83% of the people listening to this are Americans, and most of them never use glass ionomer. So talk about glass ionomer.
Well, they've got selective applications, I feel. So with glass ionomer, I mean, it's not very strong, but I like to use it as a base.
It's a very forgiving material.
Yeah, I like to use it as a base so that I don't have to use as much composite, to avoid the shrinkage and stuff like that. So if I have a very big cavity, I like to put glass ionomer, either Fuji 9 or Fuji 2 first, and then lay it over with composite. So there's less curing and stuff.
Was Fuji made by GC?
Yeah.
And did they just move their headquarters from Tokyo to Switzerland, correct?
I forget.
I'm not aware.
So how come he uses glass ionomer and you don't?
I'm a bondodontist. Okay. So if I see dentin, I'm gonna bond it. Okay. So it's just a different school of thought. There's no right or wrong. Sometimes.
Now, could this be because you graduated from Singapore?
It could be.
And he graduated.
It could be,
Australia?
and I go for a lot of courses, in the US. So if I see a huge cavity, I'm gonna bond it and probably do an inlay. I'm gonna try to indicate for an inlay or onlay, a bonded inlay or onlay. Yeah, I don't really fiddle around with glass ionomer for huge cavities. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say you're glass ionomer just because you went to dental school in Australia?
I think Australia is more GIC pro than overseas.
But glass ionomer has its space. It has its space.
So yeah, I think
It has its place, just not in your hands. It has its place, mainly in his hands.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think it depends all on the case though. Like
That's
if
fair,
it's
yeah.
large enough for, as he said, like a ceramic inlay or onlay stuff, it would be a ceramic inlay. I've got no hesitation to that. But it just depends on what I'm seeing at that point in time.
Yeah, but sometimes patients just don't want to have they cannot afford to have an inlay. Patients are in a huge hurry. They've got to leave in 10 minutes and say, I gotta get this filling done. I only have 10 minutes. Just do your best, whatever you can in 10 minutes. I gotta go. They just squish some Fuji 9 in there, and tell the patient that this will probably hold for a couple of years, and then you've got to change it out to a more definitive restoration. So it just depends on the case. Yeah.
I want to ask you. The United States has about basically 125,000 full-time general dentists, 30,000 full-time specialists, about 25,000 part-time dentists. It's basically got about 175,000 licensed dentists, and almost twice that many, 400,000 hygienists. I noticed Singapore just started their hygiene program, their oral health therapist program, 2003. First graduating class is 2006. Do you guys use a hygienist to do cleanings, or do you do the cleanings yourself? And what is the state of hygienists and oral health therapists in Singapore?
In the Rodeo Drive of Singapore, Orchard Road, where we are, patients are very spoilt. If we try to introduce a hygienist in the office, they would probably say, whoa, I want the doctor to do everything. I'm just not used to having a hygienist. Unless, of course, the patient is from America, where they're used to having a hygienist do the cleanings first and the oral hygiene instructions. And I think in America, the hygienist would take the PAs and the x-rays as well.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So patients in this stretch of town, in the Rodeo Drive of Singapore, they say, I'd rather pay more to have the doctor see me from start to finish. I don't want to see the hygienist. So from my experience, we try to have a hygienist in the office, but our patients just want to see the hygienist. So, I'd rather not. So I'd rather have, Dr. Tan, do the cleaning for me. I don't mind paying a little bit more for Dr. Tan to see it, I'd rather not have the hygienists. So the hygienists are a disillusioned bunch. Okay, so they get very frustrated. You know, I've interviewed a couple of hygienists, and they say they go to fancy clinics in town, and they want to see patients, but patients just refuse to see them. It takes a while. Like Dr. Wing Chu's office, it took him a while to successfully integrate the hygienist in his office. It took him a long while. You can ask him over dinner later. Yeah, in the beginning, patients just didn't want to see the hygienist. He almost had to, turn patients away and say, well, if you're not going to see the hygienist, I'm not going to see you either. So just go find another practice. It takes a lot of balls. Yeah, that takes a lot of guts. Yeah.
Do you like doing cleanings?
I dislike doing cleanings.
You dislike doing cleanings?
Yeah. But you know what? In the future, if our appointment books are just overflowing with so many patients that we're just having business out of our ears, I may take that brave step of getting a hygienist in and making that decision from now on. Even for my old patients, my good old friends, even if they want to see me for a cleaning, I have to say, I'm sorry, no, I don't do cleanings anymore from today onwards. But that takes a lot of guts. That would piss people off. Yeah, would piss patients off. Yeah, especially your old friends who've been seeing you for many years. Yeah, you've got probably your high school buddies who see you for cleanings. Yeah. So I don't know how to manage that transition. Maybe you could give us some advice.
I'm so old, all my friends are dead. What about you? Do you like doing cleanings?
Yeah, I'm okay with cleans because I can talk to patients a lot when you're cleaning. Yeah, so I'm okay with it. But just going back on the point with the hygienist, like America versus Singapore, I think the role of a hygienist in America is much more expanded than what it would be in Singapore. Even nurses over there, the nurses, they can do, I think they can do some amount of clinical work.
They can take impressions, right?
And like the nurses, I think, can they cut cavities or is that just hygienists?
The United States is a very confusing market because it has 50 states and all those laws are made at the state level. So they vary from A to Z.
Yeah.
Some states a dental assistant cannot do anything but suction. Other states they can literally place fillings.
Yeah.
So in Kansas, the dentist would give a shot and drill the cavity, and then the assistant could come in and put in the matrix and put in the amalgam or composite and take impressions. Basically, an expanded function duty assistant can do anything that's not irreversible.
Yeah.
So the dentist just removes tooth structure.
Yeah.
But in other states, so like say, if you're talking about America, you have to name the state, and every one of them's different. I want to name you another bias I've heard in Singapore, and I don't know if my sample size was big enough, but it seems like most people in Singapore, most dentists don't like to do molar endo. I mean, I don't think, Ryan, have we met anybody that said I love molar endo? Yeah, I know, but that's why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah.
I don't think. Do you love molar endo, or is it just tolerable?
No, I really like it.
Yeah, you're the first person I've met in Singapore that said they love molar endo or really like it. Yeah, see, and you say you hate it. I wonder. I almost wish I could survey all 1,500 Singapore dentists and compare that to like everyone in America. So why do many of your peers like it, or are you kind of stand out alone in that field?
I wouldn't say all of them like it, but it's not as if all of them hate it either. I guess maybe about a couple of my peers really do like it, but I can see why molar endo's not something that most people like, because
Why is that? Why do you think most people wouldn't like it?
time, complication rate. Yeah, I think it's just the return of investment.
It's finicking around at things that you cannot see.
Yeah.
Could it possibly be a low reimbursement rate? I mean, how much money do you get for a crown? How much money do you get for a molar root canal?
We get about $1,000 to $1,500 for a crown
$1,000
on average for a crown.
And what do you
PFM
get for a molar endo?
Anywhere from $800 to $1,200.
So it's about the same.
About
price.
the same.
So it's not money.
It could be that the molar endo also takes longer to do. Yeah.
But
Versus
the prices that I just told you is on this Rodeo Drive kind of belt. The further out you go, if you have a brave dentist in a suburb willing to do an endo for you, he may be willing to lower his fees to about maybe 600-700 for a molar endo. Maybe the satisfaction comes from getting the patient out of pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And having an appreciative patient. Yeah, maybe that's the kick that you get out of it.
What else do you want to talk about? What else are you guys passionate about?
No, well, I'm a practice owner now, so I just like to share with you, Howard, that for many years, I've spent a lot of time, effort, and money learning to be a really great dentist and being really technically good at what I do. But owning a dental office requires a completely different skill set, and I'm enjoying learning that brand new skill set. But sometimes it's challenging, sometimes it's frustrating. We as dentists, we think that we're pretty intelligent, right? I mean, we got through dental school. We're not morons. We're not idiots. We're pretty intelligent people. But once you start an office, you start to manage staff. You start to manage other doctors. You start to look at clinic operations. You start to look at front desk protocols. You start to look at stock and inventory. We start to look at finance metrics. All those things, I can tell you, it's been a huge, very steep learning curve for me, and my life has changed. Since I made that brave step to open a practice, and all my time, effort, and money now is spent on learning how to be a good business owner, how to be a good leader, how to be good with people, how to be good with finance. Like you said, time, people, time, and money, right? Yeah. And that is something that I feel that should be taught, in all dental schools, to prepare dentists, for private practice ownership. But I don't think in any university it's taught at any level. Yeah. Is it taught in the US?
It's being taught a heck of a lot more now. After the year 2000 than it was.
Because I know a lot of dentists in Singapore have started their own practice but failed. Ended up in a lot of heavy debt. They didn't make money. They had to close the clinic, and they had to work for many years as an associate to repay that debt. And they get so jaded at the end, they just do not want to.
How many dentists do you know that did that in Singapore that started their own, went bankrupt?
At least 6.
At least 6. Yeah, there's been a dozen in my town of Phoenix in just 2016, and we're not even in March yet. In fact, this podcast doesn't even exist. We're in a leap year. We're in a time warp. This is February 29th. So,
but some of these are really close buddies of mine, and it hits them right there. Say, oh my God, I'm not an idiot. I got straight A's in school, in dental school. I can't even operate a simple 2-operatory practice. I'm just overwhelmed with work, so they were just going on and on and on about it, and because of that, their relationship suffers with their wife. Sure. Oh my God, So when I listen, I get I get a bit worried too. Yeah. So I wish that I had learned a bit more about dental practice management. As an undergraduate.
Well, this is great for all the older listeners to my podcast that are all in their 40s and 50s, that this is one of the reasons why corporate dentistry is taking off so well in the United States, because so many of these young dentists, they don't want to deal with that. They say, you know what, I'd rather just work for somebody else 8 to 5, and at 5 o'clock go home to my spouse and my children
and do whatever you want.
My life. I don't want to be married with this ball and chain business. I just tell people to do what makes you happy and healthy. Like if you hate molar endo, don't do it. Don't do something you hate for money, or it'll lead to depression, disease, alcoholism, eating pain pills, blah, blah, blah. And business, some people just love business. They just love that game. They love it so much that when they start running a dental office, they don't even want to do the dentistry anymore. Like Rick Workman owns 1,500 offices. He hasn't treated a patient in 20 years. Rick Kirshner owns 350 Comfort Dentals. He hasn't seen a patient in 20 years. Stephen Thorne of Pacific Dental Services owns 500 dental offices. He's not even a dentist. His dad's a dentist. So business is one of those things. It's like treating children. You know, I would rather, you know, quit dentistry than be a pediatric dentist. I mean, and then the next guy just loves it.
Do you think you can be good in both?
Oh, absolutely.
Be a good dentist and be a good business owner?
Absolutely. I'll show you. I'll give you 1,000 names of dentists who are A, clinicians and A, business people. But some of those...
It's
some
tough
of those,
though, huh? It's tough.
Well, it's like anything. It's a challenge. And at first...
Depends on your character and personality.
Yeah, and a lot of times it depends on the spouse. You know, the secret weapon to most of the small businesses in the United States, whether it be a dairy farm, a wheat farm, a machine shop,
supportive spouse, right?
Is that the dad's out there on a tractor and mom's at the kitchen table cranking out all the receipts and selling the wheat. Yeah. So a lot of really great businessmen have a consigliere, whether that be a spouse or a business partner or a business advisor or, you know, somebody. And then that's what Dental Town's for.
Or a mentor, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dental Town has 210,000 people, and some of the greatest business minds in dentistry are on those business threads all day long. So if you ever get to a fork in the road and say, I wonder if I should do this or do that, success is very counterintuitive. Most people are pride, and they think, well, I'm a dentist, I'm smart, I should not have this problem. It's very counterintuitive to get on Dental Town and say, hey, I mean, how old are you?
38.
38. So you're a baby compared to, I mean, I'm 53. It's very counterintuitive for a 38-year-old to get on Dental Town and say, hey, you know what? I don't know what to do. Should I do this or do that? Just the act of asking that question shows humility, shows humbleness, and it's completely counterintuitive. And then all the people who love business
let me tell you,
will just chime in, and they can't wait, because the one thing humans like to do the most
is help people.
Is help other people. That's their number one drug in life. Humans love to help other people.
I agree.
And if they see some little lady they can't get across the street, everybody's opening the door for everybody. And on Dental Town, when you're stuck and you post out there, these people for free, for no money. They're not trying to sell you anything. They're just pouring their heart out. You know, so
business.
So ask for help.
Has been a very humbling experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope that you know we keep in touch. Howard, you know, after you
absolutely.
I see you as my mentor. You know,
Well, I'm your mentor, and he's my guru. So we have a threesome going here. It's just a triangle, a nonstop triangle.
You know, once in a while, I may drop you a message on WhatsApp if I head down to Arizona.
Yeah, my email is howard@dentaltown.com. I answer 100% of all my emails.
You can take me out to the South Rim.
Yeah,
and we can go up and down. You know.
Yeah. And so you know, if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth. I mean, if anybody could get a gold medal, it wouldn't be worth it. And
right now at this
at
this early stage, you know, building my practice, I mean, I still feel it's a baby. You know, it's 2 years old.
That is a baby.
I really don't know what I'm capable of. You know, Howard. I really don't know. I mean, it's easy to say I've got grand plans and a grand dream of having a chain of 100 clinics all over Singapore and maybe Southeast Asia. But the question is, how am I going to get there? You know.
Well, I'll tell you how people got to 100. It seems inconceivable. Is that you know, they start with one office. And maybe it takes 8 years to turn into a second. And then that time is cut in half, and maybe 4 years, it turns into a third.
So
and then maybe 2 years, it turns into a fourth. And then 1 year, it's a fifth. And then 8 months, it's a sixth. And
it's
so like Sam Walton, the first 20 years of his life, I think he only got open 18 Walmarts. Now he's dead. He's dead, 6 feet underground, and they open up 40 a month. So a lot of it, just think of biology. You know, 1 turns into 2. In the same amount of time, 2 turns into 4. In the same amount of time, 4 turns into 8.
So
and
the
then
first
16.
one is always the most difficult one.
The hardest division ever in life is from 1 location to 2. In fact, most investors in the United States, like, say you start with a franchise. Well, no one will even talk to you when you have 1. They want to see you cover a city like Phoenix with like a dozen, and then they still won't talk to you. Then they want to see, well, what happens when you divide to the next adjacent cities, like Los Angeles to the west, or Vegas to the north, or Utah to straight up, or Denver to the right, or Albuquerque. And they want to see that first city go to 2 or 3 other cities and do well. And then when they see your franchise has a dozen locations in one city and a dozen locations in adjacent cities, and then it starts to go to the third ring of cities, that's when the investors all pour in, and then they'll ride that wave from coast to coast. That might be a 20, 30-year wave, whether it's talking Walmart or Home Depot or Costco.
And that's how you start to open up 40 clinics.
So your hardest work will be trying to get your prototype down, and what you do is you stay here until you've perfected your entire prototype, and that may take 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. It may be never. And then if you can ever then go to a second location, that'll be the hardest thing that ever happens. And then if that works, then it's just a matter of time, and 2 turns into 3, turns into 4, turns into 5.
Mm-hmm.
But just stay healthy and happy. I mean, just make sure you're enjoying the game, you're having fun, you're happy and healthy. But if it's causing you to go home and drink vodka till you pass out, if it makes you get blues, if it makes you not want to come to work, if it makes you it causes burnout, then quit doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do things you don't like to do for money.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a fun, challenging game, pony up, go for a ride.
Mm.
But if it's making you unhealthy, unhappy, and sad,
it's not for everyone, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Well, nothing is for everyone.
Practice ownership is not for everyone.
Nothing is for everyone. I mean, there's 2 million dentists on Earth, and you couldn't even get them to agree that today is Monday. I mean,
yeah.
It's everybody's different. Everyone's unique. Just stay healthy, stay happy, keep breathing. Now, I think we should end this from the guru. I mean, I'm just a moron. We have the guru. You should have the final words since you're the guru.
Final word, yeah.
Final words from the guru. Well, you seem very happy and healthy. I mean, you guys are both all smiling and young and full of energy, and you guys look like you're having a lot of fun.
Thankfully, because I've got a good mentor, so I'm never ever in trouble because I've got Dr. Gerald here. So, So, I mean, basically, at this point in time in my career, all I want to do is sort of learn. I mean, I'm only 3 years out, so I mean that's why I joined this practice, because Dr. Gerald is he's really good with aesthetics and very good with the surgery. So, I'm pretty happy here, and what's happening here, it's very ethical, and I'm learning a lot, so I'm pretty happy.
And I really think that is the most attractive thing to dentistry. I mean, I think the most horrible job would be on an assembly line, doing the same thing over and over, or going in and sitting at a desk job where you're just data entry, or sitting on a tractor. I watch those farmers sit on a tractor and just go back and forth down those wheat fields. You know what I mean? The monotony does not exist if you're a policeman, a fireman, a dentist, a doctor, working in an emergency room. I mean, every day is a different. Oh my God! There's never a dull day of dentistry. I can't ever remember going home at the end of dentistry and saying, "Well, that was a pretty routine, boring, dull day." I mean, those were just a dozen boring patients. Oh my God!
That too. Yeah.
And sometimes the people is so easy and the tooth is so hard, and sometimes the tooth is so easy and the person's so hard. And I mean, my God, it's just, you never know what's going to happen when you walk into an operatory. And that's what I think I love the most about it.
Yeah.
You never know what's coming.
Exactly. Yeah.
And every time, and then it seems like you walk in that door and you blink one time and you look at the clock and it's 5:30 in the afternoon and you're like, wow.
Yeah, that's how I like the molar endos.
Yeah. Yeah, molar endo is to me one of the reasons I love molar endo is the same thing, a great movie. I always gauge a movie only on one criteria. I mean, if I look at my iPhone 5 times to see what time it is and I'm trying to guesstimate how much longer the movie is or whatever, it's a horrible movie. What I love about a movie is when you're watching a movie and all of a sudden the credits roll up and you look at your clock and you're like, wow, that was 100 minutes. That's the way I feel at molar endo. I mean, you're in there, you're like Stevie Wonder picking a lock, you're just in a trance, and you finally finish, and you stand up and you look at the clock and you go, oh my God, that was an hour and 10 minutes just gone in a trance, I mean, that's just...
What's your favorite movie of all time?
Oh my gosh, I'd say Amadeus was a great one. I would say Sound of Music was probably my favorite. I'd say I would say what was the
Julie Andrews.
yeah, Julie Andrews. What was the other the musical, the Russian Jewish family? If I Were a Rich Man, Fiddler on the Roof. I think Fiddler on the Roof and Sound of Music, Amadeus.
For me, it's Godfather Part 1.
That was a classic.
Yeah, how about you?
I'm pretty lame. I like Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings. You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't a big Lord of the Rings fan. I was a big Star Wars fan,
Oh yeah.
but really
You
didn't
my
really
Star
like.
Wars tank?
You know, and it doesn't make sense because I don't really read science fiction, but I love Star Wars. But I didn't really like Lord of the Rings, but I actually was lecturing in Auckland and took a bus tour. It's on the southern island where they film it, right?
I think it was.
Auckland's on the North Island and they were on the South Island. Or did I get that mixed up? Or
Maybe. I
but anyway, I
went. I thought it was all over.
okay,
Yeah.
but I went down there and of course according to the tourist bus, that's where it was. But I swear to God, I think that's the prettiest place I've ever seen on Earth.
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Yes, yeah,
and
but-
the plants they're just plants you don't see anywhere else. I mean, you don't see them in Africa, North America, South America, Europe. I mean, they're just the vegetation, the beauty. I mean, you literally thought you were on a different planet. It was really cool.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of.
What are the practices like in New Zealand?
I would say that Southeast Asia is very common in the fact that Americans, the standard dental office would be 4 operatories. The dentist would work 2 with 2 assistants, and there'd be 1 or 2 hygienists working 2 rooms, and there'd be 1 or 2 girls up front,
No associates.
and no associate. And then you go to Southeast Asia, and I mean China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Australia. It's usually a 1 doctor, 1 chair room. And there's like 1 helper that's from the phone to this. It's usually a 1 chair, 1 room, 1 doctor, and maybe someone helping answer the phone. So that is the primary difference. I mean, like in Singapore, like if I go into an office and there's 4 chairs, there's 4 dentists. 4 dentists work 4 chairs. In America, that 4-chair dental office would have 1 dentist. Like say the average, there's twice as many hygienists as dentists. In Southeast Asia, there's almost no utilization of a hygienist.
So
The dentists do the
4
cleans.
4 dentists would generate more revenue, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but your number 1 cost is labor. So the dentist is the most expensive labor in a dental office.
That's true.
So yeah, I would say in fact, I remember the first time I went to Australia and I told people that I had more than 1 chair. A guy stood up in my lecture. I think it was like 90 or 92 or 93, something like that. And he sat up and he pretended he was doing a molar root canal on 2 people at the same time. I mean, he couldn't fathom that I would see, I'm doing a molar endo here while they're cleaning up the old room, seating the next patient. And then I could take a break from molar endo and just numb up the patient and let it soak in for 5 minutes. They didn't see the logistics. They literally thought I was working on 2 people in 2 chairs at the same time.
When was the last time you went?
Oh, I go to Australia all the time. I just was down there 6 months ago.
Oh.
But I'm talking about in the early 90s.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I don't
In
think.
fact, when I
once,
first went down there, there weren't any hygiene programs. Like you didn't graduate. Singapore didn't graduate their first hygienist until 2006. I think I graduated. I think I was lecturing in Australia before they had any hygiene programs.
Yeah, I think that was
Been around now.
back in the day. Right?
Yeah.
You've been around.
Yeah, I started lecturing in 1990, and this is 2016. I mean, I'm 53. I've been lecturing on 90 to 2000, 2010. I've been lecturing 26 years. I mean, usually if I go to a country, I'm going back for the 3rd, 4th, 5th time, But hey, we're out of time.
Anyway, yeah.
We went over an hour. Thank you guys so much.
Okay.
It was
you.
very useful. I think the people that listen to the podcast will love it. Thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.